Now, the theme of today's video is actually relatively interesting, since it is a topic that is still frequently brought up, but I haven't actually talked about myself in a long time now. But before you get into this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, as we are almost at 19.8k subscribers, so it would be greatly appreciated. And I know that I keep saying this, but we are so close to 20k subscribers now, it's actually insane. I do just want to take a moment out of my day to thank you guys so much, because initially my goal for the year was to reach 20k subs, so the fact that we're only halfway through and we are about to do that already is genuinely just like unfathomable to me, and I genuinely cannot believe it, so thank you guys so much. And for those guys who would like to join my Discord server, that is in the description below, to stay up to date with all of Greenville and Southwest Florida's update information and to stay up to date with all of my future content. But anyways, without any more talking, let's get straight into the video. Alright, so as you guys can probably tell based on the thumbnail of this video is regarding semi-trucks, and essentially why Greenville has seemingly been avoiding the update, despite the fact that they could easily just add them right now if they wanted to. Now, currently the closest thing in game that we have to semi-trucks is this tow truck vehicle right here, and I mean, it almost does pass off as a semi-truck, apart from the fact that it doesn't actually have any trailers at the back, but the overall build of it is the exact same. I mean, at least the front end of it pretty much looks like a semi-truck. And I mean, when this thing was added all of those years ago, a lot of people started making up conspiracy theories that this was going to be the start of semi-trucks actually being added to Greenville. Obviously though, all these years later, that has not happened still. However, not all hope is lost, as there is actually information from Smears regarding why they still haven't been added, and this is actually some pretty recent information as well. So he sent a pretty lengthy message in the Greenville server just over a year ago now that pretty much said, if you really want semi-trucks that bad, make them yourself for your game, and as a bonus, figure this out, find out how to handle abandoned semi-trucks or one spawned specifically to troll. And if I'm going to be completely honest, I don't really know how the statement makes any sense, since we literally have a tow truck in the game already, and we also have things like buses and whatnot, which are also used and can also be used for trolling purposes. And even then, if they wanted to prevent that, they could easily just disable collisions for vehicles like that. Anyways, moving on, he also said whether or not to make a game pass for it, which can mitigate excess appearance of semi-trucks or trolling like ramming and blocking roads. Now, this is a pretty valid take, and personally, although a lot of people are probably gonna hate on me for this, I think they should make a semi-truck game pass if they do add them, especially because with the way how they want to add them, with probably having a job alongside them and whatnot, it will be a pretty, you know, hefty thing to add. But then again, at the same time, Greenville isn't really well known for making new game passes anymore, and that was sort of like a GV3 thing that they did, so then again, it is pretty hard for them to figure it out. And then he said resolve potential physics problems like odd jitter and trailers and crates, objects and players on moving objects glitching out, the entire semi basically exploding on a lag spike, and client-to-client replication showing no trailer at all because it got flung into the ground on only one client. And then he also said make it actually satisfying and worth it to connect and disconnect cargo, figure out how to map all of this stuff on the game supported platforms, mobile, Xbox and gamepad, refactor the entire camera system to move properly for cargo size, and then also deal with community backlash when it's not what they wanted. And I mean, yeah, most of these are pretty valid takes. There are a few things that personally I don't really understand and I think would easily be avoidable, but for the most part, these are valid things. And the next message sort of explains why they haven't really actually been, you know, figuring out how to stop these issues or at least mitigate them. So Smears essentially said semi-trucks are planned, they're just taking so long because they aren't a high priority, and there is a lot of work required to get it done, and we plan to use its framework to group in other larger vehicles potentially. So that does confirm that semi-trucks are planned to come to the game eventually, but as you guys could see in that previous message, there is a lot of stuff that they still have to figure out internally and externally before they can be added. Now, the thing is that since Greenville hasn't really given any clear plan as to what their intentions would be if they were to add semi-trucks, it does make it very hard for us players to figure out, for us to be able to give suggestions on how they can stop or mitigate these issues. Now, luckily, I actually have access to a early revamp testing game, which I do want to put a disclaimer out there before any of you comment in the comments below asking how to get into this game. It is unfortunately private, and there is no way of getting in here unless you already have access to it. But yeah, so essentially, this game actually has these semi-trucks, and yes, I'm gonna drive around in some of them. So the first thing that we have here is not really a semi-truck per se, but it is an armored truck vehicle, and I mean, this could be somewhat of an example of what we might get in the future. This could actually be really cool to go with like a criminal update or whatever, as you know, it gives off that sort of vibe. And yeah, it does actually have the same front end as the tow truck that we currently have in game does, which is definitely something interesting to point out. And I mean, yeah, to say the least, it does feel kind of weird driving around a vehicle like this inside of Greenville, since, you know, there's just not something that you're really meant to do. But I mean, hey, here I am. Obviously, this is a very bland version of the game, as you know, this was way before the revamp even came out. But yeah, regardless, it's still very cool driving around this thing. As you guys can see though, it does top out at 70 miles per hour, so it is a very slow vehicle. I guess it does make sense considering how heavy this thing probably is. Now, this one here also technically is not a semi-truck, and it's actually more classified as like a box truck, but I mean, it's still a truck to say the least. And once again, something very interesting is that this does have the same front end as the tow truck that we currently have in game, and it actually is, I'm pretty sure, almost if not identical to the tow truck, apart from the fact that there's just a box on top of where the tow area would usually be. And this proves that we literally can get vehicles like these in Greenville if the devs want to add them, but for whatever reason they just don't want to. Obviously, Smears did make some pretty fair points back then, but at the same time, some of them just don't really make any sense to me, and my best guess is that they do probably just want the update to be be bigger, in the sense that they don't just want to like randomly add a bunch of semi-trucks where you can't do anything with them and they're just there to look cool. You know, they would probably want some job to go alongside them, as I have stated multiple times. But it's still unfortunate regardless, because think about how cool it would just be driving around something like this in general, even if you couldn't do anything with it. You know, I feel like a lot of people would just appreciate that. But then again, yes, there would be people who complain about it, since, you know, there's always going to be people like that, sadly. There's also another box truck here, and the reason why I point this one out is because it is actually like a completely different model to anything. So it's actually based off like a Mitsubishi box truck. As you guys can see, the front end is totally different. And yeah, it is a lot tinier as well than the last box truck that I was just driving around in. All in all though, it's actually very interesting, and to think that these vehicles could have actually been added in the revamp originally, but for some reason they just weren't. It kind of sucks, I can't lie, because these are pretty cool trucks. You know, I mean, but imagine driving around in this thing. I'm honestly just really hoping that when they re-add the Sahara delivery building, hopefully, like, you know, they'll get shipment trucks like this or whatever, and you can like drive around and like, you know, drop off different shipments and stuff. I don't really know, but you know, I feel like that would actually be a pretty cool thing to add alongside it. And if they don't, it'd probably be a pretty big missed opportunity, you know, because even box trucks are pretty sick in my opinion too. I'd love to see these. Also, obviously, we do have the famous tow truck, which is already in the game, thankfully. However, when the revamp first came out, this was not in the game. But you know, once the DOT job came out, they did eventually add it, thankfully, which was definitely really cool of them. And then lastly, right here, which is one that is actually a semi-truck, is the Celestial semi-truck, or I guess the Tesla semi-truck. As you guys can see, it is obviously a semi, but it doesn't have any trailers at the back, sadly. Obviously, you guys can tell that the model on this thing is extremely outdated, as this was made like back in 2019 at least, probably. So it is extremely old at this point. Actually, now that I think about it, this model is literally like half a decade old at least. So yeah, it would definitely need a lot of remodeling if it was to be added in Greenville today. Obviously in a fictional form though. But regardless, it's still pretty cool to get an idea of what it would be like to have semi-trucks in this game. Since, you know, especially for a game like Greenville, you would probably think that they would already have semi-trucks and whatnot. But yeah, they just don't, sadly. Hopefully, if any devs do see this video, this sort of inspires them, I guess, to get on board with making them. Because, you know, it is something that is super cool, and I would personally also love to see in the game. Anyways, though, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you guys did enjoy it, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, as we are on the road to 19.8k subscribers, so it'd be greatly appreciated. And also, for those guys who would like to join my Discord server, that's in the description below, for those guys who would like to stay up to date with all of my future content and all of Greenville's update information. But yeah, anyways, let me know in the comments below if you guys found this video useful, as a lot of people to this day still don't know why semi-trucks haven't been added yet. So hopefully this video clears up most of your guys' questions at least. But if you guys do have any more in the comments below, I'll try my best to answer them. Yeah, anyways, thank you guys so much for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.